My name is Joe Pyfer. I'm going on 52 years old. I used to be the boxing coach for Fight Factory in Philadelphia. Eddie Alvarez, Steve Haig, Zach McCoskey, and as everybody knows, my son Joe Body Bag. So I've decided after years and years of being beaten down by depression and suicide and chronic back pain to make one more go of it, because I see a lot of kids are in need and need help. And I think this is my way of coming back and giving back to the sport that saved my life.
All right, Josh, the first quarter, man. I need everybody to keep your head in the game. We down by a couple points, but that's all right, we coming back. They already counted us out, man. Remember, we the underdogs. So we ain't got nothing to lose. Let's get out here and work as a team to secure the win. Hey, yo, Nine, counting on you.
Now I come from the bottom of the barrel, it was strife. Roaches in the box, did away with all the mice. Syrup on the bread, eggs all up in the rice. Trying to overcompensate for poverty with all the ice. Sugar water, one sweet at all, had to pay the price. They say you only live once, I'ma live twice. Light years on them, they don't see them like the lights. By the time they start to get it, I'll be on my second life. Screaming that before the sign of family, before the fame. Then they do anything to try to get up in the game. I would never trade my loyalty to get a shot of fame. Had to learn the hard way. Everybody ain't the same, and they tried to put me down. Had me feeling way down. Down. Had me feeling way down. Down.
I've boxed in all these gyms since I was 9 years old. So I started in 1981, and I've never stopped. So now I've gotten a real good footwork routine, and I decided let me go and see if I can inspire some new fighters, give some new tips. You can only do it by proving it first and then talk afterwards. So that's why I'm here. I let my hands do the talking. Keep the Lord in my life. I got a good church family. They resurrected me, they restored me, they brought me back to where I was at when I wanted to die in December. And I feel like if I hadn't let God be my compass, I wouldn't be here today. I would have quit. I let everything and everybody's bad words get into my head. I let my own words get into my head. And I had to cry out to God. And when I cried out to God, He showed me that this was my path. Just take it one day at a time. It's not easy. You know, when you're in the storm, you always panic. And then when you're told to just be still and know that I'm God, you go, wow, I finally learned to be still. Yeah, I ran away at 14 years old, tried to commit suicide at 20. It's not about whether I win or I lose this fight. It's just a matter of whether I get in and I successfully survive it, and then I can get into coaching. You know? But I feel like you have to do something great to make that happen.
Down. Had me feeling way down. Down. Had me feeling way down. Down. Had me feeling way down. Opposite of young Obama, I was running out of hope. It's in my DNA, I'm never running out of dough. They say you are what you eat, and I believe it. I'm a vegan, but somehow each time I look into the mirror, I see goat. Call me Curry when it's time to go to war, I lead the pack. Back at 30 when it's time to go bananas, I'm with cats. Take a knee and pray for all my enemies who want me down. Those who waited on the low and I was broke, look at me now. Winning like I never took your L, Floyd May. When y'all give me the beat, I cook it like it's gourmet. Get the coming at me left and I'ma let the foreplay. Waiting round and catch me slipping, it's gonna be a long day. I was taught to treat the game like playing chess and stay ashore. Gotta know your circle before you put them on the board. Keep the serpent even closer than the one you really love. Red dot him at the neck and name it out of the above.
Fourth quarter. 5 seconds on the board. The ball's in your court. With no timeouts left. You're down one starter. It's all or nothing. It's all on you now. What you gonna do?
They had me feeling like I would never get no wins. Like I ain't good enough cause I ain't going with the trends. Had me stressing like the other way I'm giving up. Had me feeling like I would never be enough. Where they at now? Down. Had me feeling way down.
So I finally quit, like 20 years old. So I had been at least five and a half years running from house to house, walking from Albany to Kensington, back and forth. You know, and anytime you meet somebody, you ask them, can you stay with them? Which way we going?
Straight.
Straight up. Yeah, you ask them, you know, can you stay on the couch here and there? And usually back then, people don't really want you on the couch no more than a day or two. And then you had to keep up and pick up and keep going. Did that for 5 years. And then decided to just go walk to the bridge one night, a couple nights before Christmas. By the time I got to the bridge, somebody called a cop. The cop was sitting there waiting for me as I started to climb the bridge. Broke out a little New Testament Bible, read me Psalm 27:10, just like Jonathan did, which I thought was God's movement then. I didn't understand it. When my mother and my father forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. Because they asked me, what do you want to kill yourself for? I said, because my father don't love me, my mom. You know, I'm out on the street. They're raising other people's kids, and I'm the throwaway kid. You know, I'd been given away a few times as a 3-year-old kid to different family members. So, you know, that stuff sat with me while I was walking to the bridge. Like, is there any glimmer of hope not to jump? And I couldn't find anything. There was nothing to find. You know, what was there to find? There was nobody to save me, to take me out of the hood. All the family was poor. So I really didn't know what to do. So I just said I quit. That's the first time I really thought hard about suicide since I was like 16. 16 I wanted to, but I didn't understand it. But at 20 I said, I had seen enough people already and heard that they jumped off the bridge, so that was the only all I had in my mind, just go. I figured it would just turn off. The pain, all the pain they caused me, it would just turn off if I jumped. But I never got a chance to. They took me to Temple Psych Ward, and a couple of days later I got to meet Jonathan Widgeons, and he brought me the gospel. He made me an airbrush picture of me in the ring, and he took me in. He let me stay with him for a couple of months, and then I was shipped down to another church from Vineland, New Jersey, where they shipped me to Wildwood, brought me back, and then I stayed there for 2 years and met my wife, got married, had 5 kids, made my son become a world champion who now fights in the UFC.
Baby, come on! I don't burn bridges, I just keep building, let's go.
I sacrificed my whole life from off the street to give him everything. And a friend of his, Sam, and another guy, Chandler, they talked him into selling me out and stealing my story from coming up off the street as a fighter. And it's not true.
I didn't like the idea at first, and then I liked the idea, and you know, I just kind of realized who my dad was as a person, and that there is no scenario in this life, unfortunately, that me and him will coexist without butting heads. And it's a very dangerous place for me and him to be around each other, because he will always have an agenda to belittle me or to put me underneath of him or to somehow make me somebody that was a bad child in his eyes, you know.
But here he is here. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. What do we got? There he is here. Looks pretty good. There's the love there. There's the love there. So everything he said about having a hard life was just to sell out my story out of spite, get me back. Kid was my whole life. And now I had the pictures to prove that he wasn't homeless. But here he is sitting here at the age he said he had no home. He wasn't homeless. So here he is here, coming over here, having me trade him here. He wasn't homeless here either. 18, 19 years old. And we were always together. We were never separate. You know, here he is here. Any kid that would be battered would be terrified to even be around his father. And I was the one who was battered. I was terrified of being around my dad. That smile is a smile of love. It's not a smile of a kid that was going through torment. I don't have no pictures like that with my father doing that for me. These are the portraits I used to make out of wood. It was my ministry. And I used to make my kids that on holidays. And I give it to people that had lost their loved ones when I drove an oil truck. Here we are here. We used to go hiking all the time. Taught him to do chin-ups on the trees, made him strong. This was my family, my whole life. I had it ripped away. I bought the kids horses. He learned how to ride. He had it all. People that taught him to sell me out, there's been a lot of memories for him to be losing, for him to be doing this and lying like that. Here I am taking the kids out to the park. Doesn't look like anybody's battered or scared to be around their father there either. He wasn't homeless here either. Here comes the big picture. Bam. Wildwood Convention Center, we competed together. At the time, he's telling Dana White and these guys that he's homeless. He was never homeless.
Whatever the reason is behind this, I mean, I really hope it's a good one to tear down such a good person. I mean, everybody has problems. I accept that Joe's not a perfect person too. I've known him for a long time. I know he has flaws, which is fine, but just to see the maliciousness and the slander that's happening, it hurts me, because I see him every day and I see the pain in his eyes in the morning, and I see, you know, things like, talking about quitting and things like that, where I know where it's going. And, to have blood do that to you, and then, the snakes that you surround yourself with, it's the fight game. I understand that. It's always been the way it is, but, to continue this, to continue to do it, to continue to tell the story, I mean, just attacking in the way that he's being attacked, I don't understand it, and I can't imagine a reason that would even be happening.
Joe, what's amazing is one day, probably 30 plus years ago, our family came home and said, this is our new brother, some pale, tall, white guy. And he was immediately engrafted into the family. That's the power of love. That's the definition of love. Love believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, and it never fails. To take a person in after one day of meeting them, that's how you know he had an impact on them. And he influenced them, even in his broken state, influenced them to move him into his home. What I've seen over Joe over the last 2 years or so is his determination and yearning for love. No family's perfect, but he wants to love and he wants to be loved. But he's been broken, he's been beaten. But like a great fighter, he keeps punching, he keeps jabbing, he sticks, he moves, he bobs, he weaves. It's priceless.
Chills looking at the basement. Kind of wanted to get out and look at it, but I didn't. Right there. There was the basement. He had me lock in there and treat me like I was a dog. And I got up out of the door, came out here, ran down Salmon Street, and I never looked back. Should have killed that guy for the fucking abuse. I should have killed that guy. I should have killed him. Beat me up and had me down there living like an animal. My day will come. My day will come. I was forced to go live with this guy at 9.5 years old, so I used to walk from that apartment all the way to the school. And the kids here, because I was always getting taken from school to school, I was getting beat up and getting bullied by the new kids. I was the new kid. The local kids didn't want me here, so they forced me to get a lot of beatings. I wasn't giving out nowhere near what I was getting. I was always getting beat up more. Before all this was built, here was just a coal mining place. Where they used to get me the most, right here at the rec center, because they were just coming out of school and they would chase me and get me before I got out of the gate. Whole time I came down here, I started to get a little bit scared, so I started thinking what Mama O.D. said, that you are the light, you can get through this. No weapon that's formed against you shall prosper. So put on the whole armor of God this morning and I came down here. Not easy. There wouldn't be no story if I had jumped off that bridge. that's for sure. No kids, no influence on nobody. Wow. No reality. Kind of gives you the tremors, and it kind of gives you closure at the same time. At least I know I have a second chance. At least I know I have support now. Yeah. The reason I was tough on Joe is because he was lazy, and he didn't understand what guys like us from the hood understand. You know, that we're Philadelphia boxers, we're the best in the world. And so to teach a kid who's growing up soft on a farm, who doesn't understand that getting up at 6 a.m. is really important, and getting up at 5 a.m. is really important. And so after so many years of dealing with him being rebellious towards the hard training, I had to start to pick it up more, and he would become mouthy. And once he started to get strong, then he started to try to bully me back. You know, we don't brag like we're trying to be prideful, but we're from the hood. You know, no kid from the farm who's now being raised in the suburbs is going to walk over me. He's not going to bully me physically or verbally. And so he figured out that he couldn't do that with me, and we parted ways, and he went and lived with a friend for a little while, and he jumped around and jumped around and jumped around, and I kept training him. But he kept saying my training methods were too hard, and I go, anybody who wants to be the best, you can't go hard enough. So if you're complaining about going hard in training, what are you going to do when somebody's got you in a bad spot in the fight world? So that was always our headbang, was that he didn't think my coaching was reality. So he went to softer trainers like Sam, guys that were born in the suburbs that didn't know any real hardships of having to endure this ugly life in the hood. So, you know, if that's what they want to accuse me of being hard, even Eddie Alvarez, who went and became lightweight champ, I used to coach him how to box. He made comments also about, oh yeah, you know, Big Joe used to yell at his kid and all. And you go, well, think about it. My kid went on to become a UFC champ because of the way I trained him hard. He complains that he was trained hard, but knows deep down inside, come fight night, the hardships that I put on him in training him hard and making it disciplined. And he didn't have the best childhood. He says, it's crazy because I got a million videos and a million pictures of me loving on him all the time, getting people to give him belt promotions at Balance Studios, getting this guy to help him, putting him with great champions and stuff. And so all that's nurturing, that's love. That had nothing to do with abuse.
I've known Joe, man, I guess 19 years now. We met when I joined the Fight Factory back in 2004. He's been an amazing friend. He's gone out of his way to help me. Whenever I need him, he's always there, right there. He's been instrumental in training my daughter, who is competing internationally in jiu-jitsu. He's works out with my son, always plays with him. And my oldest daughter boxes with him too, and I box with him. And when I see, you know, the joy light up in my kids' faces, like, how could you ever doubt or have any type of inkling that there'd be something wrong there?
This is about as close as I can get to being back on the old farm. I come out here early in the morning after I get breakfast, coffee, and I sit out here and I read scripture and I just get myself in the state of letting everything go, just clear my mind while I'm out here. Walk around a little bit, look at the horses, talk to the horses for a little bit, walk down to the river, go down to the creeks, and just sit there and just meditate. That's all you can do. Out here I find peace. I feel close to my mom. I feel close to God when I come out here because it's quiet. And the animals are pretty neutral. And once I feel satisfied enough when I'm out here and my spirits calm down enough, my nerves, and I go about my day and I go teach boxing. And then I train. I started doing these in 1996. I used to work on the Walt Whitman Bridge, and I just had my 4th baby, and I wasn't making enough money. I was only making $10 an hour working on the bridge as a purchasing agent and a tool man. So a couple of the salesmen that I bought from told me about a guy that used to make birdhouses and sell them at flea markets. So the guy got me a scroll saw, and I couldn't cut a straight line to save my life, but I was able to cut curves real good. So I just slowly started doing graffiti plaques, and then the portraits I started doing in 1999 from a magazine that I saw where people could cut out the shadows of people and woodwork. And then I started a ministry that way when I was driving an oil truck. Anytime I met somebody who had lost a family member, I would ask for the picture and then take it home, and then about a week or 2 later I would come back and I would donate it to them without anybody around to see it or hear about it. This was the wolf in the movie Van Helsing. I paused the movie back then and I put tracing paper over it and I tried to draw all the shadows I could, but the teeth all broke off and everything. There goes, this is Bruce Springsteen. I made that right around the time Hurricane Sandy was destroying the shore. I made that of my grandmother after she passed away, 2011.
And you write that on every one of them?
Oh yeah. I guess I could do it on this. But the way that this works is I never have enough light. You have to find this. You have to find a hole where you drilled that, which is not easy because you're using really small drill bits. Yeah. I need to get more light in here, dude. I can't see it. Put it on this way. You tighten it here on the blade, and then over here you tighten up the tension. And then make sure I'm cutting it off. Then you start cutting. That's it. Takes a lot of hours. That one up there that I was doing, the 18 by 24 Dragon, I sold that for $800, and then it broke, and I gave the money back, and they gave me the money back and bought me another saw. But that's got like 3,200 holes. So imagine 3,200 times you're going to undo this and cut all them holes out there individually before you even sand it. A lot of work.
I've seen Joe carve those wood carvings and make images out of dead wood. Well, some may call wasted wood, but one thing we know about the cross is there's no wasted wood. When Jesus laid down his life, that was not wasted wood that he was hung on. They stretched him wide, he hung his head and died, and pierced him in his side. All that, we get that, we understand. But that wasn't wasted wood. That symbolism of the cross wasn't wasted wood. So now he's taking that same non-wasted wood and he's carving images, long-standing images, museum pieces for that matter. It's amazing. It's amazing. I went to the game with my baseball game with my son the other night, and I'm looking at this ball and it says there's a soft core baseball, soft core. It's like, what does that mean? That just means when this hard ball on the exterior that's been stitched up and seamed up, but the inside there's a soft core, and that will probably be my greatest definition of Joe. That he has a soft core, and that's what makes him so influential, so instrumental. I'm believing in reconciliation with him and his son. his son is a direct reflection of everything that his father has taught him, even the negative parts. I mean, look at David. What made David so great was the negative parts of his life. Bathsheba, Uriah, how he got Abigail. That's what made him so amazing, is the negative Nabal experience enabled him to be the man we know and love. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I get it. Yes, that's him. Same guy. And I believe the same thing's going to happen with Joe. Those same negative, traumatic experiences, the same trauma, the same family turning their back on you, and that doesn't absolve him from any wrongdoing. It just means that God can still get the glory.
So here we are riding around in Albany today with Director Ty and my sister Justa and her precious daughter Summer. So it's been a little emotional because this is where I literally was forced to sleep outside up here, across from Cardinal Doherty Catholic School, where the park's at. And a lot of my family was from here, my dad's sisters and nephews. And now everybody's gone and I'm riding around. It kind of seems like a desert town, you know? And but pain educates us. So I'm learning to work through the pain and look to see what's the lesson that God's got to teach me about, you know? It was great sharing judo with these guys and, you know, teaching submissions. You know, I was a green belt in judo at that time, so I only knew basic stuff. I wasn't really that great. I was just trying to learn, just anything I was willing to get involved in.
So Joe, or Brother Joe as I called him, he came to live with us. I had to have been about, I think 15, and my parents were a part of an organization called Operation Brotherhood. They were both ministers, and at that time, my father, I think he got the call to go and help a young man that was in distress who turned out to be Joe.
You believe that was 91 in December?
Was it? It was Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, yeah.
He moved in with us. His recollection may be a little different than mine, but I remember that night vividly because we were all in the living room watching television, my parents, myself, my brothers, and my dad came in with this tall, skinny, scrawny white kid, and he's like, hey, everybody, this is Joe. He's going to be living with us for a while. And I remember this one time, we were walking down the street. It was Mika, myself, and Joe, and we're just walking, we're talking, we're happy because we're about to go get food. And there were these guys on the corner, and naturally they see this tall, skinny, you know, white kid, and they think he's out of place, and they try to, you know, turn him or whatever. And Mika's like, y'all better shut up because he boxes. He's going to knock y'all out. And he just kind of turns around and, you know, kind of looks at them. And I will always remember that story. It was the funniest night that the three of us had together. My hope is to see them just have a conversation, allow one another to share, you know, the hurt, the pain, you know, whatever came between that has them in this current state of estrangement. But I do know he loves his children and he loves his family, and that is my hope, to see them happy again, to see them working together again, to see him training his son again, being in his corner, championing, you know, him on, as I know his heart truly wants to do. But I would say over the years, now that we've all reconnected, I think he's grown a lot. I think that he's maybe not totally made peace with his past, but learning how to cope with it, like many of us do, learning how to cope with the abuse, the trauma, not allowing it to dictate too much of our life. But I think that the man that he is now and the father that he is now, I think that we can be proud of. And I'm hoping he's proud of himself because he's come a long way. He's definitely come a long way.
Sisters Hannah, my oldest daughter Sarah, their two friends, and then Joe on the side. When I made it off the street and got a family, I slowly started to see all the places where we fail as human beings. And I read every book I could read, you know. read every type of psychology book. I read all the rejection, low self-esteem books, and I read everything that I thought I was craving. Because I was always craving the attention of a father.
Throwaway kid, huh? Looks like it.
Farm life gave me a chance to kind of heal, because you had nature, you had a lot of animals around you. The kids could be free. They could run out back anytime they wanted. They had horses, they had goats, chickens. We had ducks for a little while. We had always had a dog, and always had Persian cats. So I always try to just create a calm environment. You come from the city, you don't want to hear no noise. You just want to just have peace and quiet.
Mommy took that picture. Mommy will have to find that picture, and what I should have done was got each copy of a picture and put it in plastic and put it on the back of your frame. She had to compare it. Do what?
You hold that one, and then I'll hold this one.
I'm gonna have to charge that battery again. It's already,
In front of the kid. Oh, okay.
it's already got one dot on it. Was that coffee boiled?
Yeah.
Was it?
Should be, yeah, so good.
I don't think they did. I'll say hi.
It's little Joe operating the camera now.
You guys gotta do what you're doing in the picture. Want me to do one more? Yeah. Yeah.
These are cool frames, man. You believe it?
No, I can't.
When I kept staring at it, I'm like, I'm just so surprised that it came out that well. Do you know why? Because they made the faces real large.
I like that. I like it a lot.
Hannah, right next to the stereo. See, between the stereo and the TV. Grab me the pictures of me and Mommy like that. I'll show you the pictures that I got.
And he's a lazy kid. He was a very slothful, lazy kid. Which is not an insult, because he admits it in his one video when he's in the basement and said that I was lazy and I hated it and I didn't want to do it. And I got my work ethic from my father. So the more I gave the boy, the more that he just seemed to not put out. He started to put out and start to train harder when he was around 14, 15, when he was in public school, and he saw that if he didn't train hard, it was an embarrassing moment for him. So then he started to try to take it serious. But then with the seriousness came the cocky attitude where he thought that he could tell me he didn't have to listen, or he didn't have to train a certain way. So I had to make a choice. Either do I build him, make a good life for my son, because it was a personal for me for coming off the fucking street with nothing, absolute nothing. And so for him to lie and say he came from nothing and was a fucking throwaway kid, he stole my story. So his mom was telling him to do that. She was coaching him to say, just use his story. But, you know. And so everything that he struggled with, he turned around and focused all the anger on me. And then when he got Sammy the snake helping him, Sammy was telling him, just use his dad's story. You can just take his dad's story. Tell them that you were abused. Just throw the whole thing back in your dad's face for your dad being hard on you. So, you know, it's pretty ugly, man. They spited me just because they didn't like the way that I taught them how to be fighters. These guys all want to be liberal, soft guys when they get into training. And then they get out there and they see it's a whole different world in the cage. So that's the kind of guy I am. I'm old school. I was trained by Wesley Mozon. I was with Meldrick Taylor. I was around Tim Witherspoon. I was around Rocky Lockridge, who used to come into the gym at Dempsey's gym. I learned how to do things the hard way, black and white. We train hard today, no soft stuff.
Seems like, you know, it's a little bit exaggerated, but literally every day when I meet new people, I find out that somebody's missing this and missing that and missing this. And it's not that it brings any comfort to me, but in a way it's comforting that I get a chance to tell them my story and encourage them to do things that I done. You know? I pressed on when I didn't want to press on. So. Now when I train, all that just floods in. It's a lot to say or in my book, but that's all in my mind when I walk into.
Feeling like I wouldn't make it out the mud. Had me feeling like I had to go and get a plug. Had me feeling like I wouldn't make it out alive. Never thought that I would turn around and be the best alive. Where they at now? Down. Had me feeling way down. 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 Down.
Sit out in front of the gym and sometimes 2 hours and wait till it was open up at 3 o'clock because I had no life outside boxing. I was a high school dropout because of having to be going home to home, and you just can't make it mentally. Going home to home and going to school, so I focused on boxing and I made boxing my whole life. That ain't got it. Yeah! Try to be the first one here and the last one out, but I'm not the last one out because I put in about 3 hours here and then I go to a student's house and they have a pool and I train in that pool for two and a half hours. I've been working hard for the past 6 months to get into a fight. I got my paperwork, registered with USA Boxing now, going on 52 years old. Haven't been in this world for a little while because I was in the MMA world for 22 years teaching those guys how to box. So I train twice a day. So I'm in about 5-6 hours total straight. And then at nighttime, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom and just go ahead and I'll grab my dumbbells and I'll grind out another 6-7 rounds of 5-minute rounds. I don't do 3-minute rounds, I do 5, sometimes 7-minute rounds. Sometimes I'll put on music that's a 10-minute round and I'll just blast for the whole 10-minute. And I help my son get to the level where he's at in UFC. It's time for me to do something for myself. Come fight day, I'm gonna be ready. I hope whoever I fight's gonna be ready.
Waking up in the mornings takes me about 2-3 hours. Take my kratom and then do some stretches and massage my back with the electric massage. And then do wash and then see what bills are due, which there always seem to be. It's kind of weird. You pay one and the other one's right in the mail. But in between all that, I'm still trying to enhance this new footwork I've been working on. It's been every bit of 3.5-4 years, might even be longer, but I'm really pushing it. So that's how that starts in the morning.
This is where I come to train at 2-3 days a week. He lets me have the run of the yard, training pad. We just do a little bit of plyometrics, some small weights, some jailhouse workouts that we do, all body weight exercises. And then we kind of rest for a little bit and then we go out to breakfast and get some coffee and some eggs. And that's how our Saturdays are. And my friend Buck comes in a couple days a week and watches me train with his family. There's a big deer, big buck, like 8-pointer, comes in with a mom and about 2 or 3 of the kids. And sometimes there's like another female that come. And I'll have their music blasting and they'll be sitting over there in the neighbor's yard. And then they'll come over in the back here, be eating the grass, watching me. And I'll be punching this bag as hard as I can. And it doesn't scare them away. It's kind of funny, but it's a peaceful thing where you can get your mind right, get yourself focused because it's always very quiet.
from the wolves and the snakes. The bulls full of hate, trying to seal my fate. And dear Lord, keep me from the devilish smiles. Niggas that shake your hand, then plot on your child. Dear Lord, protect me if I get in the jam. Niggas that follow your page, just to plot on your gram. Dear Lord, show me all the things I need before I slip up and become another nigga who bleed. And dear Lord, cover me whenever I'm weak. Don't wanna be another nigga lost in the street. So dear Lord, show me the light and make it right. And protect me whenever I'm making moves at night.
We're always getting credit at the local store until they got money. A lot of things have changed. There used to be a ball field. Yeah, I live right in the second house right there. Second row home. That's one of them. Westmoreland Street, Kensington. Here's the boxing gym right up here at the corner. Over there at Front Street Gym, which is a couple blocks away. There it is right here. Is the gym. We used to go right up here to the second floor. Right under the bottom of it was a garage. Right where that guy's standing, we used to go right up to the top.
See a lot of changes in the neighborhood?
A lot of changes. They didn't have bars on their windows and their porches like that when I was living here. But when we used to come by as a kid, there was always people in the, heavy metal guys selling weed, selling drugs and stuff. And there was always fights inside this park. In the 80s there was. Even back then, it was a predominantly white neighborhood. You still had to watch your back here. They jump you if they thought you were by yourself. You didn't belong to somebody. Here to see this. Sleeping in and out of this park. I slept here a couple times. Walking up and down these streets at 2 o'clock in the morning, looking for a friendly face to stay with. Just to remind you how ugly and dark it was. 14-year-old kid running around these streets, knocking door to door, asking people, can they help you? Most people can only help you up for about a week or two, and then that's it. You up and jump to the next couch, or basement, or somebody's back shed.
Dear Lord, keep me from the wolves and the snakes.
Where I was at back then, what I was at here on the street was just broken heart, loss, confusion. Why would my parents raise other people's kids and not me? There was a lot of internal questions going on. Why would my dad be a drug dealer, and then beat me up because I'm not the right kid or I say something wrong, that's the questions that you're walking around as a 14-year-old runaway. And all you're thinking to do is just to lay on somebody's shoulder and cry. And unfortunately, it was always on the wrong shoulder. And so I just lived a life of confusion and anger. What could you do at that age? By the time I got to 16 years old, I was starting to get numb to the abuse and all the ugliness that they put me through. I got locked up at 15 years old because my mom was sleeping with her boyfriend down the street on Sedgwick Avenue, and they took me up and locked me up at 15 years old, and then wonder where all the bitterness comes from. They want to talk about some pain and suffering. You go, yeah, I'm out here watching my parents raise other people's kids, breaking the law while doing it, and I'm going home to home, and everybody's going, hey, look, I can help you for a couple weeks, but you're really not my problem. Well, then after a while, then you really start getting a temper, and you start getting angry. And the only way that I was able to keep my head afloat was that I stayed in the boxing gym down there at Jasper and Westmoreland Street with Wesley Mozon. He used to promise me that if you stayed in the gym, all this stuff would go away, but it really didn't go away. But it kind of makes sense to me now what he meant. What he was saying was if you work on greatness, a lot of this won't matter in the end because, you're working on you. They're not working on you, and they're not working on themselves. But when you work on you, there'll be a reward when this is over. And I don't know if there's a reward, but I know coming back here after 33 years and be standing here, I've always been terrified to come stand here. There's some higher power that's speaking for me to be here, and it's bigger than me. Yeah, this is the verse that saved my life that night that Uncle John came to Temple Psych Ward when I tried to jump off the Tacony Bridge. When my mother and my father forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. "33 years since then. 2 marriages, 5 kids, 6 grandkids. A long, long road. Have you seen that one before? To go over the waves that you could never race in and try to beat the storm. And so I think that's where this makes a really good point here too, is that if you're really connected to God, you'll understand that you're being told to wait so you can ride the storm out. You're trying to race through the storm. And if nobody gets this kind of message out, then maybe somebody who's really suffering, trying to race through their life in whatever storm they're in, that the reason you're being told to wait is because that's the safest way into the harbor, is to go slow, is to wait, be of good courage, and you'll reach that destination.
So you just buy those and cook them in the microwave?
Yeah, just 2 at a time. You save money during the week. You can't afford to go out buying breakfast sandwiches every morning, no coffee. That was $2.99, so that was cheap. Yeah, I usually buy microwave food. This barely works. It works, but it's, it'll smell up the, eggs and stuff. It'll smell up the apartment, so I don't even cook on it, I just get like cheap food from the dollar store, put it in the microwave, eat that way, burritos and stuff. Coffee maker works. My buddy Elijah brought me this. He flew in when he knew that my wife left me, and he bought me a bunch of stuff. Bought me these pods and stuff like that for the coffee. This thing works really good,
Oh, my crock pot.
Yeah, it holds in pods in there. My buddy Eric gave me this crock pot to make food, but I've only used it once. I haven't really cooked with it. For me to be a better teacher, learn to get his eye-to-eye focus so you don't look around, and tell him, scream that you are a champion. Say, I am a champion, as loud as you can. Then he started doing it, and it was hard not to break while he was doing it, because I trained little Joe the exact same way. I made him believe in himself from a super, super young age, because he was getting bullied by my ex-wife's family. The nephews tried beating him up 1 or 2 times, and then by the second time I said I had enough. And then I decided to go ahead and make him what he became, where I could put him in any tournament and walk away. I wanted him to be so good that I just walk off and you don't even need the trainer. That's when you know you really have given somebody that godlike independence in martial arts or boxing, or when you combine it, is to give him where he don't need you. He can go live on an island. You taught him how to live, how to work. You taught him how to box. You taught him mentally how to stay strong under fire. Except for this last fight, obviously, he let it get into his head. But all he has to do is stop talking bad about me, and I still would have counseled him, because I counseled him for a lot of fights that he didn't tell these people I counseled him for, which is really weird. It's really weird. We had a part of ways after that, but even after that, when he turned pro, he still would call me up and ask me stuff, and I would still tell him, even though he put out that first documentary slandering my name and making up them lies about being homeless. So he backed me into a corner where I got to defend myself now. So I'll just defend it with the truth. was doing okay for the first 2 rounds. He was doing like I taught him all the time, just to stay on a good foundation of basics, and you can beat the most advanced guy. But what he forgot to do was to get that, you know, that Philly swag, that boxing swag, move, you know, kick him, move here, you know, punch, don't be in the same place twice, no head movement. You know, he bought into his own story about being the strongest puncher there. And see, that's the bad thing about ego, is ego will get you somewhere but lie to you at the same thing. So he thinks he's the biggest, toughest guy in the world with this punch and all, but then he couldn't even execute on a guy that's not even known to be a brawler. So I think what he did is he forgot his fundamentals, and that's really all he has to do, is go back to his fundamentals, start paying attention about footwork, and make it your whole life. You know?
So wouldn't it be crazy if you actually trained somebody that was about to fight Little Joe? And it ended up being like a Mayweather junior senior type scenario that played out, and you know, I could see him smile about it, but he doesn't smile much when we talk about things, you know, that have to do with him. But yeah, I mean, that would be the great comeback. That would be amazing, because I don't know, I saw his son knocking people out in the Art of War days when his dad was training him for all those fights, and that was his best stand-up ever looked. So, I mean, if he wanted to get back to that, he knows where that is and where to go, because, you know, there's nobody better to train him than his dad.
Maybe that's part of the reason why he has this hate towards me, because I tried to build a confidence in him, and he thinks the confidence I have in myself is me putting him down, but it's not. That's why I tried to make him better than everybody. You know, it takes some chiseling away, even if a kid's a rebellious kid, you know, and he was. And he had a bad attitude about everything. So you try to chisel that away and give in that discipline that you learned from being in Kensington and boxing in K&A, and you try to give him that by chiseling away the bad behavior. You know, he had the entitled behavior. So you're trying to mold him into this character that he begged you to be, as he says in his interviews, right? He begged me, you know, he couldn't wait to be a UFC guy. So, which that's not true. I'm the one that made him do it. It was going against his will. He didn't want to become a fighter. I made him become one because I saw where he was going. All he cared about was video games and doing nothing. He had no trade. He didn't have no artwork in him. He wasn't like my daughters. So I had to be extra disciplined and extra loving too, because I had to make sure he became great. You can't make a kid become great all those years as a child by abusing them and throwing them away. Either you had a privileged life or you were a throwaway. A throwaway is me, who didn't get the opportunity to do any of that stuff. To be a role model, you got to be on your knees. You got to be praying, God help me, because I'm not strong enough. I don't go out there and slander my dad. My dad was a drug dealer. Sold crack, cocaine, weed, meth, everything. And we weren't allowed to have no friends in the house. And I still come out and I produce a son that can do all this. And all I get is the middle finger, because them 2 snakes that you got there talked you into that. Take Joe down there to Cape May, and we would do that for sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours, throwing stones out there, skipping it off the water. All you got to do is think about what it was like sleeping in that shelter on Myron Street. You're like, man, I could be broke, poor, If I'm walking in this kind of environment, this is the greatest day of my life. Hard to feel down when you think like that. You're like, hey, look, I've been through worse.
Real love has understanding attached to it. You can forgive anyone when you have real love, when you know true love. It's not an emotion, it's an understanding.
I love right now is seeing the growth in him currently as a full adult, where he's been, his history, all the abuse that he's endured to, to the man that he is now, the father, the person, the brother, the friend. I think that it's beautiful to see the growth. I think it's beautiful to see the love that he still has, number one, for God. He's very active in our church, and I actually love the fact that he's so active in the church that he feels that he can participate in fellowship. I think that the men in the church and absolutely the pastors, Pastor Mike and Pastor Miriam, how they love on him and how he's able to feel a sense of security in that way. I think that foundation early on from, growing up in church as we did to now as the adult that he is still having that. I think church has become the glue, the piece that has brought him through.
Today we're doing a light workout with Jillian Bullock for her movie, and it's called Rebirth.
Hey y'all, it's Jillian here. It's a nice, beautiful Saturday. I'm out here with my trainer Joe, who is whipping my ass, getting me in fight shape for my upcoming movie, Rebirth.
See the squat? Post, straight left, float, post again, straight left.
Really trying to work me here today, but that's good. That's what I need.
She did all the work.
That concludes the training session for today. Another ass kicking I got from Joe here. That's great. I'm going to eventually look like the female version of Michael B. Jordan in the Creed movies.
Every bit.
Joe's going to help me get there. Right, Joe?
Yep.
I'll give my pound, man. All right.
So I had to face some pretty hard facts. One, that doctor said my back was getting worse, and I couldn't get a medical clearance because of the medicine I take for my back. And if I wanted to be able to do that, I'd have to be able to pass a lot of tests, and I have a metal cage in my spine, and above the spine now the disc is very close to bone on bone, and he said to not do it. So you could if you want it, but I'm gonna keep it in my mind that I'm gonna find a way to try to get better.
Oh, it's an Aston right in the corner.
Thank you. No problem.
Wow, there's that snow road. Amazing. Vine Street Shelters, the first time I heard the song Amazing Grace in the little chapel too that night. Thank God for that.
Tell me a little bit about what it was like being at the Vine Street Shelter compared to now.
Being at the Vine Street Shelter compared to now, it's like a constant reminder of a second life. And what it taught me was of the small things that you take for granted. The food, the drink, the shelter, the clothes. What makes you really feel poor when you come up out of them places when you don't have any socks. Or you're wearing your socks for 3 days and then every other day you turn them inside out, try to air them out. Because you're wearing them every day. So it taught me about being humble is what it taught me. It taught me a lot. It told me I wasn't the only one out there suffering.
Would you like one cup of soup?
Sure, thank you, bro.
You got it.
That's all. Thanks, bro.
Welcome.
There are a lot of people who made comments, asked me why I eat so slow. I said because
Yeah, that's all it comes with.
when you go as a young kid and you don't eat much and you're running home to home, there's days where you don't eat nothing at all.
American cheese.
And there were some times that I've eaten paper just to kill the hunger pains when I was 16 years old. It was just a one-time thing, but it just makes you humble. So by the time you get to the shelter, I already was on the street for 5 years, so I had already learned to be humble for the smallest crumb anyway, but being in the shelter really opened my eyes to about 60 people in there all suffering. From senior citizen age all the way down to my age, to 20. I didn't see anybody in there younger than me.
He's riding down the street and he looks out the window and he looks at the car at the house where he was trapped in the basement for years being abused. And I just looked at that and I just said, God, look at how you're doing it. That you could look and just keep driving by. See, you know, there was a time when your trauma would have stopped you. Your trauma could have stopped you. Your trauma would have stopped you. Matter of fact, your trauma should have stopped you. But he kept driving. And I said, Lord, I thank you He's looking at the house that he was trapped in the basement, locked in, getting kicked and beat. I can't tell your story. I don't know your story. But I thought about what I would have done had I looked at the house that I was trapped and beaten and abused for years. I said, I don't know if I would have not stopped. Went in and still kicked the house down. They don't even live there no more, the people that abused you. It was a small point, and I said, God, I thank you. Lord, I thank you.
Having breakfast at the local diner near where I live, and then we're headed down to the Vine Street shelter to do an interview down there, get some footage of the place where I was at. It was Uncle Jonathan that took me to the shelter. It was like 10, 11 o'clock at night. There was a whole line of some pretty grimy looking guys, and I was only 20 years old, but I had like a 14-year-old mind at the time, so it was terrifying, it was scary. So I kicked us out like 6 o'clock in the morning, Christmas Eve, so I walked all the way from Vine Street shelter in Broad, all the way up to Broad and Lindley, and walked up to their house, knocked on the door. That's red hot. You gotta see it. That was the first place in their chapel the night before Christmas Eve. I got to hear the song Amazing Grace, and at that time I'd never heard of it. But I didn't sing along, but I just sat all the way to the far left in the corner and I read the words. So we're headed there today to revisit some memories and talk about what it was like being there, how hard it was being there, and how I found God that way.
One of the hardest parts about life is knowing your purpose. And I believe that even in this age, Joe was just finding his purpose. Literary genius William Michael Griffith, y'all might know him as Rakim, says, planet Earth was my place of birth, born to be the sole controller of the universe. Besides the part of the map that I hit first, any environment, I can adapt when it gets worse. And I believe when Joe grabs that besides the part of the map that I hit first, where I was born, my situation, my circumstances, besides all of the map, I can adapt when it gets worse. Besides all of that, I can adapt in any situation. And I believe that's what God is trying to draw out of Joe. He's trying to draw it out of Joe. Because he knows if he draws it out of Joe, Joe is able to draw it out of other people. Can you understand that besides the part of the map that I hit first, I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. But any environment, I can adapt. That means I can go anywhere on this planet and adapt to whatever situation I face and be successful. I believe that's what God's trying to do. Joe Pyfer's life.
Faith has always carried us through. When I lost my faith, I became terrified of everything. And slowly, through my family in Albany and my pastor and his wife, I've gotten a whole lot of that strength back. Coming back here and reflecting on this place shows me how grateful I am, really. 33 years ago, I could have been dead. I left the Temple Psych Ward for suicide at 20 years old and came here. First time I heard Amazing Grace, and got to live with a family after I left here that showed me what true Christian love was. And to come back here now is it makes me grateful to be alive, when only about a year ago I didn't feel like being alive. But just wakes me up inside, big time. Bruce Lee said, don't be afraid of the guy that knows 10,000 kicks, be afraid of the guy that does one move 10,000 times.
people that were powerful that kept going right into the middle of hell, walk right through it. You don't come out the same because you ain't supposed to. You put a ceramic in the fire and it comes out and it's all glazed, right? It went in there rough but came out a better object. So anything that's ever had to go through the fire was for its own good. You know, you take a piece of steel and they bend it and they slam it over. How many times they do it in Japan? I heard it's a ridiculous amount of times. But the commitment to make something become the best means that it's got to go through a lot of heat, a lot of hell, and a lot of bang, and a lot of... It doesn't feel good, man. But to make something become great, you got to take a beating.
He hit me with the right hand. I said, about time.
You know, Stallone said it best. You know, it's how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. There's no other way.
Many times in life, because of our past traumas, they become triggers. And the Lord says, don't be tricked by the triggers. There are triggers that don't want you to have a father. There are triggers that don't want you to have a father. And many times, especially men, but women do have the same problem too. Many women have been so used to not having a father that when they have a father now, it kind of feels like an annoyance. It kind of feels like, oh, you're being overbearing. But a father is there to teach and to love. That's why the prodigal son story is so amazing.
Every punch that it looks like that I hit him with, my hands were open. Every one of them were pulled. I just make them look like I'm hitting them, and I made him think that I was going to be like that. But, you know, I wanted to see if it would intimidate him and scare him if I came fast, but I never try to hurt him. That's why he's laughing the entire time. But then go tell people a bunch of lies that, yeah, he was doing all these bad things. Yeah, I bet I was.
Judges chapter 13 is so powerful. Samson sees a woman that his father's not pleased with. His father says, why do you go down to Timnah to find you a wife when we got all these saved women over here? A father will challenge his children. And many of us are not used to being challenged.
Good word.
To do the right thing. We are encouraged to do the wrong thing.